I never really thought I'd find myself in a situation like this. I mean, I thought I knew my wife, Lisa. We've been together almost 10 years, married for 5, and I always believed we had a solid partnership, or at least I did. She was the kind of woman who could be bitchy and sarcastic, but I figured it was just her style. We had our ups and downs, like everyone does, but nothing that seemed insurmountable, or so I thought. Things started feeling different about 6 months ago. Lisa was more distant, snapping at me over the smallest things. She'd cancel plans at the last minute or get aggressive about the tiniest issues, like how I folded the laundry or forgot to take out the trash. She'd be bitchy, sarcastic, and dismissive, but I brushed it off. Maybe she was stressed at work or just tired. I didn't want to think there was something else going on. She also started working late more often, which wasn't normal for her. At first, I assumed she was just busy, but then I noticed her phone going off at odd hours, and she'd hurriedly hide it or take her calls in. The bathroom. Little things that didn't add up, but I didn't want to push. I didn't want to seem paranoid. Still, the feeling that something was off kept creeping in. I'd catch her lying about where she was or who she was with, and I'd ask her directly, but she'd always come up with some elaborate excuse that I later realized was complete bullshit. Then came the night I found out for sure. It was a Tuesday, and I was working late as usual. I'd recently installed a security system with cameras around the house after a string of petty break-ins in the neighborhood. I liked knowing everything that went on when I wasn't home. That night, I was going through the footage to review some clips, and I saw something that made my stomach drop. There she was, Lisa, sneaking out of the house, at midnight no less, and meeting up with someone. I froze the footage. That someone was her coworker, Jake. And the way she was sneaking around, hiding her phone, acting secretive, it all added up. My mind started racing. I looked closer and saw they'd been meeting for a few weeks now. I'd noticed her acting strange. But I never expected it to be this obvious. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. How could she do this? After everything I'd done for her, helping her get that job after her last breakup, being there for her through thick and thin. And now I find out she's been cheating on me with some guy I helped get back on his feet. It felt like the whole ground was shifting beneath me. I kept watching the footage, trying to process what I was seeing. I thought about confronting her right away, but I was too stunned. Instead, I kept replaying the clips, trying to understand what I had missed, what I didn't see. I could feel the anger boiling up, but also a deep sense of betrayal. This wasn't just a fling or some meaningless affair. It was real, and she was lying straight to my face every time I asked about her late nights or her odd behavior. That's what really hurt, the lies. The way she dismissed me when I asked, like I was overreacting, like she couldn't care less. I wanted to shout, to confront her immediately, but I knew I had to think this through. I needed a plan, a way to handle this that wouldn't make things worse. Still inside, I was burning with rage, betrayal, and heartbreak all at once. It was an overwhelming mix of emotions I'd never expected to feel. I kept watching her on those recordings, and I realized that my life as I knew it was about to change forever. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My mind kept replaying the footage from the night before, over and over. I couldn't shake the image of Lisa sneaking out, her phone pressed to her ear, her face tense and secretive. It was like a punch to the gut every time I thought about it. I didn't sleep much. I kept going over what I saw, trying to figure out what to do next. I knew I couldn't just brush this off, not anymore. I decided I needed to confront her. It wasn't going to be easy, especially because I knew she'd lie her way out of it. But I had enough evidence now. Those recordings weren't going away, and I couldn't pretend I hadn't seen what I saw. I waited until she came home that evening, trying to keep my cool but feeling like I was barely holding myself together. When she walked in, she was her usual bitchy self, rolling her eyes as she kicked off her shoes. I could see the flicker of something in her eyes, defiance, maybe, or just that usual attitude that she always had when she didn't want to be caught. I looked at her, and without a word, I pulled out my phone and started the video replay I'd been watching all morning. I just pressed play and let her see for herself. Her eyes widened as she recognized herself on the screen. For a moment she was silent, then she scoffed. "That's not what it looks like, I swear." I felt my blood boil, really, because it looks like you're sneaking out every night to meet up with Jake. Who is he, Lisa, and why are you lying about it? She rolled her eyes again, crossing her arms defensively. God, you're so paranoid. You're making a big deal out of nothing. It's just some stupid thing. It doesn't mean anything. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Nothing, you're cheating. On me with someone I helped get a job after he got out of prison. That's what you're saying, that it's just nothing. She looked annoyed, but there was a flicker of anger in her eyes. You're overthinking it, okay? You're always so damn insecure. I was just talking to him, nothing more. Maybe I didn't tell you because I knew you overreact. That broke something inside me. I felt my fists clench. How could she lie so easily, so dismissively? I knew then I couldn't just brush this off. I had to decide what I was going to do. I couldn't keep living with this betrayal hanging over me. But part of me also wanted to believe her, to forgive her and move on, maybe pretend it never happened. Still, I knew deep down that wouldn't be possible. The air between us was thick with tension. I looked right at her and said, "So, this is what it's come to. You're cheating on me with my own friend and you expect me to just accept it, after everything I've done for you." She rolled her eyes again, scoffing. "You're making a huge deal out of nothing. You're always so dramatic. Maybe I should just leave you if you're going to accuse me of this every time I talk to someone." I was stunned. Her words hit me like a slap. I'd never seen her like this before, so dismissive, so bitchy, so absolutely unrepentant. I felt a mix of rage, heartbreak, and disgust, but I also knew I had to stay calm, even if inside I was furious. I told her I needed some time to think, and I walked out of the house, not knowing what the hell I was going to do next. All I knew was that everything I believed in was crumbling, and I was left standing there, feeling betrayed, angry, and utterly lost. Over the next few days, everything felt surreal. I kept replaying that footage in my head, trying to make sense of it all. Every time I thought about Lisa, her words, her attitude, how she lied so effortlessly, I felt a deep, burning anger. I couldn't believe I'd trusted her for so long. I'd gone out of my way to help her, to support her, and this is how she repaid me. With some stupid affair with a guy I helped get back on his feet after prison. It was a slap in the face I didn't see coming. I started noticing even more signs of her disloyalty. Little things, her phone constantly buzzing late at night, her dismissive attitude when I asked where she'd been, things that seemed innocent until I connected the dots. I felt like I was walking around with a blindfold on, ignoring the obvious. Every moment I was alone, I'd get angry all over again. I'd ask myself how I could have missed the signs or been so blind to her lies. One day, I decided I needed to get some answers. I wanted to hear her tell me herself that she was cheating, that she'd been lying this whole time. So I confronted her again, this time more directly. I called her at work, told her I had something to say, and she was quick to pick up, sounding annoyed. I told her to come home, that I needed to talk to her face to face. She didn't protest much, just said she'd be there in a few minutes. When she finally arrived, she looked annoyed, like I was wasting her time. I could see that familiar bitchy attitude creeping. And even before I spoke, I sat her down and looked her straight in the eyes. "Lisa, I saw the footage. I know what you've been doing with Jake. Don't bother lying to me anymore. Just tell me the truth." She scoffed again, rolling her eyes. "You're so dramatic. It's not like that. We're just friends. It's not what you think." "Friends? You're sneaking out late at night, hiding your phone, lying about where you are. That's not just friends, Lisa. That's cheating, and you're lying to my face. Are you seriously going to sit here and pretend it's nothing?" She looked paler now, but her attitude was still dismissive. "You're overreacting as usual. You're just jealous because I don't want to be stuck at home all the time. Maybe you're the one who's insecure." That was the last straw. The anger boiled over. I felt my hands trembling, but I kept my voice steady. "You're full of shit. I helped you with your job, supported you through everything, and this is how you repay me. By cheating with some guy I helped get out of prison. You're unbelievable." She started crying. But it wasn't the kind of genuine remorse I expected. It was anger, manipulation, a way to turn things around on me. "You don't get it, do you? You're controlling, insecure, and you don't listen. I'm tired of pretending to be happy. I deserve better than this, more than some guy who's just supposed to be my husband." I felt like my world was collapsing. Her words cut deep, but I was also furious. How could she lie so openly? How could she pretend she wasn't screwing around? I realized I couldn't just walk away or pretend I hadn't seen what I saw. I had to make a choice, and I knew it wasn't going to be pretty. I needed to decide whether I was going to keep fighting for us or finally accept that this betrayal had broken whatever I thought we had. I told her I needed space, that I wasn't ready to talk anymore, and I watched her storm out of the house, leaving me standing there, feeling more alone than I ever had before. The days that followed were like walking through a fog. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. My mind kept circling back to what I'd seen, what I'd heard, and what I knew now for sure. Lisa's words, her dismissiveness, they all just confirmed what the footage already proved. She was cheating on me with Jake, the man I helped get a job and trusted more than anyone. It was a betrayal so deep that I felt like I'd been punched in the chest every time I thought about it. I started to notice the details even more. Her phone constantly pinging, her sudden inability to look me in the eye, her quick, dismissive answers when I asked about her whereabouts. The way she'd get defensive whenever I brought up the subject, like somehow I was the crazy one. I'd even caught her lying about small things, like saying she was at work when I knew she was out with Jake. The more I looked, the more I saw how thoroughly she was hiding her tracks. One evening, I couldn't take it anymore. I decided I needed to catch her in the act, or at least get a better sense of her lying. So I installed a hidden camera in the living room, pointed at our entryway. It was a risky move, but I was desperate. I figured if she was meeting him again, I'd catch her. That night I stayed up late, my heart pounding in my chest, waiting to see what would happen. Just past midnight, the camera caught her sneaking in the front door. Her face was flushed, her hair disheveled, and she was trying to be quiet but failed. She slipped inside, clutching her phone, looking around nervously. I watched in silence, feeling a mixture of rage and heartbreak. She was lying to me, cheating on me, right under my roof, and I hadn't even known. I felt like I was losing my mind. The next day I sat her down again, more determined than ever. I told her I had proof, my secret camera footage, and that I wasn't going to pretend anymore. I told her I knew she'd been sneaking around, meeting Jake, lying to my face. She looked stunned for a moment, then her bitchy side kicked in. "You're crazy. You're just paranoid. I don't know what you're talking about." I pulled out the footage I'd saved. "This is what I saw, you sneaking in last night, your phone calls, your late nights. And I know about Jake, I know. Everything." I looked her in the eyes and saw a flicker of panic but also defiance. She was trying to deny it, to lie her way out again, but the truth was right there on the screen. Her face twisted into a mixture of anger and contempt. "You're a psycho. You're stalking me. I'm done with this. If you're going to accuse me of all this, maybe I should just leave." She grabbed her purse and headed for the door, her attitude so bitchy and dismissive I almost couldn't believe it. She was trying to turn it around and make me look like the crazy one. But I wasn't backing down anymore. I told her she could go, but I wasn't going to pretend I was okay with this. I realized that I had to make a decision, whether to fight for us, try to forgive her, or finally accept that this betrayal was too much to ignore. Deep down, I knew I couldn't stay in a marriage where I was constantly lied to, where trust was shattered beyond repair. As much as it hurt, I was beginning to understand that sometimes the best thing you can do is walk away and rebuild from the ashes. After she left that night, I was left sitting alone in the dark. The house was eerily quiet, like a shell of what it used to be. I kept staring at the footage, replaying everything, trying to process how Lisa could lie so effortlessly, so blatantly. I felt betrayed, humiliated, furious, like I'd been played for a fool for years. The woman I loved and trusted had been sneaking around behind my back with my so-called friend Jake. It was a blow to my pride, my sense of security, everything I thought I knew about our life together. I started to think about all the moments I'd brushed off, the signs I'd ignored, her late nights, her dismissive attitude, her phone always hidden. I felt stupid for not seeing it sooner, but then again, how could I? She was so convincing, so bitchy and manipulative when she wanted to be. I realized that her lies weren't just about this affair. They were about who she was hiding herself to be. A woman who could betray her own vows, her own husband, with such ease. That night I made a decision. I knew I couldn't stay married to her anymore, not after what I'd seen and what I knew now. I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay just because I loved her once. Love isn't enough when betrayal cuts so deep. I thought about confronting her again, but I knew that would only lead to more fighting, more lies, more emotional destruction. Instead, I decided I'd do what I should have done from the start. I'd focus on myself. I'd start the process of healing, of moving on. The next morning, I called a lawyer. I didn't want to rush into anything, but I needed to protect myself, my property, and whatever future I could salvage. I started gathering evidence of her infidelity, saving the footage, taking screenshots of her messages, and documenting everything I could. It was painful, but I knew I had to be ready in case she decided to fight me for anything, or worse, try to manipulate her way back into my life. Over the next few days, I kept my distance. I didn't answer her calls or texts, refused to get dragged into her manipulative games. Sometimes I'd see her driving by or trying to text me, but I ignored her. Inside, I was torn between anger and sadness, but I also felt a strange sense of relief. For the first time in a long while, I was thinking about what I really wanted: freedom from the lies, a chance to rebuild myself away from this chaos. In a strange way, I learned something valuable from all this. Trust is fragile. Betrayal cuts deep, but it also forces you to confront what really matters. I won't pretend this was easy, far from it. It hurts like hell to let go of someone you loved, especially when they turn out to be so different from what you believed. But I also realized that I deserve honesty, respect, and someone who values me as much as I value them. Moving forward, I know I'll be more cautious, more aware. But I also know I'll never be blind to the truth again. The aftermath of all this has been one of the hardest experiences of my life. It's not just about losing a wife or feeling betrayed. It's about rebuilding trust in myself. I spent weeks trying to piece everything back together, figuring out how someone I loved could turn into a stranger so quickly. The house feels emptier now, quieter, like it's missing the life we once shared. I still catch myself thinking about what went wrong, about the lies, about how she could be so callous and manipulative. But honestly, I've come to a place where I realize that I'm better off without her. The betrayal exposed her true nature: bitchy, selfish, manipulative, and I refuse to be part of someone who lies and cheats and then dismisses it as nothing. I've been through enough pain to know that forgiveness isn't always possible, and sometimes walking away is the only way to save yourself. I've started focusing on myself, rebuilding my confidence, reconnecting with friends I'd slowly pushed aside, and even exploring things I'd never had the time or courage for before. The process of healing isn't linear, and some days are still hard, but I know I'm stronger for having gone through it. I've learned to trust my instincts and to be more cautious about who I let into my life. No more blind trust, no more ignoring the signs. Looking back, I realized that betrayal like this teaches you about your own worth. I learned that I deserve honesty, respect, and someone who doesn't lie to my face. I also learned that sometimes love isn't enough when someone's true character comes out, especially when they're willing to betray and manipulate you just to feed their own selfish needs. Now, I'm moving on, not bitter but wiser. I don't regret the time I spent with Lisa, because it taught me what I need to look for in a partner and what I don't. I've accepted that some people aren't worth the effort if they're going to lie and cheat, no matter how much history you have. The pain will fade, and someday I hope to find someone who truly values honesty and loyalty. In the end, I'm grateful I found out the truth before it was too late. It hurt like hell, but it's better to know now than to keep living in the dark, pretending everything's okay. Life's too short for that. I've learned to trust myself again, and that's what matters most.